Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to Fantasy Forecast for Monday, December 13th, 2016. I'm your host, Mike. I will be your DFS weatherman for today, and let's go ahead and move into today's fun slate. Real fast, we'll go ahead and review the scores from yesterday. If you ask me for a GPP lineup, I will provide one on Twitter. Not doing that in the videos until I can improve my cash game rates there. It was a 300 last night, which was definitely enough to score on DraftKings. Fanduel was more disappointing. And yeah, I still had Macklemore, the injury killed. Fanduel, 290, you needed 299 to cash, so, not enough. Macklemore, again, when a guy gets pulled out and injured like that, and you can get a slow start in a quarter, that's not a big deal, but when you get injured and you don't come back, you lose. And that's just it. Cousins was fine, Harden was fine, Deng was fine, Griffin was fine, a bunch of five-timers, but if you get enough to just hurt you, Morris only 18. Robinson was a fine punt, but Macklemore just destroyed the lineup. And Walker having 22 points when he should get 35 to 40. That hurts too. All right, so let's just move on to today's slate and where it gets more fun. Okay, this isn't it. I have so many entries right now because basically, okay. The question of today's slate is going to be, do you fade Westbrook or not? Now on DraftKings, I almost think that's almost a no-brainer question. You probably should fade him. He's more than 25% of your salary on DK, and I don't think that's sustainable. I mean, you need to get 350 to win over there nights on GPPs and, close to 300 to win cash. Westbrook needs to give you 70 points or more just to meet cash game lines over there. That's a tall order even for him. So at those salary prices, I think he's hit choke point on DraftKings. Now on FanDuel, where you got 60,000, I don't believe that's the case. I think it's a heck of a lot easier. So Westbrook at your point guard, Rose at your point guard today. And this is your optimal cash lineup for now, but this plays on some injury news, and I'm going to have to explain that to you guys. So wait a bit and listen to this whole video. We got Rose and Westbrook. Lee and Morrow for your shooting guards. Went cheap. Gordon and Durant at your small forward, expensive and cheap. Ibaka and Porzingis at your power forward, middle range. And Biyombo, he's still lower middle range in C-ender. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the lineup real fast and then I'll explain. The issue is Westbrook, obviously. If you fade out of Westbrook today and you go with somebody cheaper, you're going to have a ton of salary to move up almost every other single position. You don't need to completely cheap out at your shooting guard. You don't need to cheap out in your small forward, although other than Durant, I don't think there's anyone you're going to like in the small forward today. So, you might want to cheap out at small forward. Power forward. Power forward's a good position today, which is shocking. It doesn't happen often. Center's all right. I've seen better, but... And let's just look at the games and see why. Okay, so let's edit this entry up and let's go into today's slate. So, the games first. You've got 6 games. You see some defensive matchups, guys. You don't want to be playing Memphis guy. The Cleveland-Memphis matchup just looks disgusting. It's probably going to be a blowout. Probably going to be a massive blowout. You lose by 15 points or something like that. So King James sits the fourth quarter. Kyrie sits the fourth quarter. And Kyrie's gotten cheap, but how can you play Cleveland guys in the back end of that blowout? There's so much blowout risk on that game, I can't touch anyone from it. Orlando, Atlanta. This is the big news of the day, guys. You want to see if Vucevic, or God, however you say his name. You want to see if Vuce is sitting or not. If he's sitting, they lose that big man, and it basically just plums forward guys like... Well, Aaron Gordon doesn't get enough minutes off of him being absent to be enjoyable, but it will solidify his minutes, and he has good fantasy point per minute runs. So I would take in Aaron Gordon today. I would lock in Biyombo, no question, if Vuce is out, and I think that's where this lineup is, where I'm going to assume he's out for this cash game lineup. You guys will see an update posted if I get news that he's not. And then besides Vuce, or with him out, you're going to take, who the heck is it? Ibaka. Ibaka should see a ton of run, tons of run. So that's your news, and it will end up loading your game slate up with 3 Orlando guys if you do that. So I'm not so sure on even the cash game part of it, but I think you can still run it safely in cash because you're taking fundamental value. You're going to get increases in usage on these guys that exist. And while we're on increases in usage, on Fanduel especially, you're going to need Westbrook in there. I mean, I don't see how you fade him on Fanduel today. You can, but his usage goes up with Depot out. And now that we know that Depot is out, it's like there's OKC value as well. And Westbrook just going to get that extra little bump in usage without it. And it's like, wow. Definitely a contender for 70 points today. I mean, so I will take him in Fanduel. I just think that he's fadeable on DraftKings. All right, let's keep moving on here. Curry. Be looking at Curry on DraftKings. Not here. 93 is a bit expensive, but 84 over on DraftKings, that's eminently doable. I like that. If you think that Curry is 2/3 or better than a Westbrook, then you're getting Curry cheap, right? All right. Kyrie, I'd be passing. Like I said, it was just the matchup. I mean, the rest of the point guard position really kind of sucks. I liked Rondo today because I thought he was coming back. I mean, yeah, he tossed the towel on his coach's face a couple weeks ago, but I mean, he put up a decent game on his last one, and it was against a bad opponent. So, in terms of fantasy, I mean, I think it was Miami. So, he played well, and it's like I wanted Jonathan in today, but you're already getting game time decision again. Now, if Rondo turns out to be playing, I would probably pivot back into Rondo, and I'll probably post a lineup for that too. We have a lot of news we're playing on today. Without Rondo playing, you're going to drop all the way down to Jerry and Grant. Will probably pick up some of the minutes, but you're going to also look at usage too. I mean, Grant might pick up some more minutes and some more usage, but I think that a guy like, well, Jimmy Butler can pick up some of the scoring as well. I mean, you're going to look at those bumps in usage. Maybe Dwayne Wade as well. I mean, there's certain guys that will get pops and bumps when that happens. So look at them and consider them carefully if you get that news. I mean, you always want to play this injury news in DFS. It's just smart to jump all over these things and find out where increases in minutes and increases in usage are for discounted prices. That's normally what propels your lineup above a 300. Going through the rest of the lineup here. Lillard against OKC, sure, GPP play. Curry, not too much for the price on FanDuel. Bledsoe, basically all of Phoenix, but he's gotten too pricey against New York. I would be, just a lot of these things are just passes today because, while they're okay GPP plays, they're just a bit expensive for cash. Like Schroeder's gotten way too expensive now. Frazier, I mean, if J-Rue comes in, you lose. So I wouldn't be playing Frazier because you don't know. That's still game time decision, I believe, which is just because J-Rue is close to becoming able to come back. Yeah, he's listed probable for today's game. So J-Rue comes back, there goes Frazier. I mean, like I said, the second slot in the point guard is tough, which is almost why you lead into taking Westbrook on FanDuel no matter what. I mean, you got some cheap guys, maybe Augustin, you know, if you basically play that Vus is going to be out, that'd be a way to quadruple stack and run him in for cheap, 39. Jerry and Grant, though, probably your very cheap option at 3,500. I have no problem running him today if you get the news that Rondo's out. I mean, he's going to be the primary beneficiary. So run him in real fast if you find out Rondo's out. Over Rose, I believe, and use the rest of the money somewhere else. I'll show you guys in an updated lineup if that's what comes to fruition. But shooting guard today. Dwayne Wade, we mentioned. McCollum might be passing at these prices. Klay Thompson is... The problem with the Golden State New Orleans game is blowout again. Now, I know that's only a 10-point game compared to like 15 for Cleveland, but New Orleans is at home. If it was on Golden State's home court, I can see that being a 14-point spread. It's probably a blowout anyways. So, and the interesting thing about Davis on that is they love to fucking friggin' run Davis regardless of blowout or not. If there's a blowout, Davis might still see 35 minutes today, which is like, really? And he's like, yeah. Because they just kind of keep him trotted out there even when they're down by 15 or 20. I don't understand that at all. Maybe they'll wake up one day and start pulling him out. But, you know, that's kind of why I stray off of Davis in what's likely a blowout game. Now, I can take Durant instead for a $2,000 savings today, because you're going to spend up in 3 slots today, guys. You're going to spend up on Westbrook, you're going to spend up on Davis, and you're going to spend up on Durant. Those are your 3. Now, you can't build a lineup with all 3. 12,700 plus 12,000 is 24,000 plus 34,000, and that leaves like 25,000 for 6 guys. You're at 4,000 a piece or something. It's not possible. You'll miss out on too many of those $6,000, $7,000 guys that can turn into 7x or 8x just because they have a great shooting night. And Ibaka if Vucevic is out. I mean, that's just clear to me. So Look at Clay, even though it's a question of how far blowout you think is going to go. And shooting guard isn't a wonderful position, so you need to just kind of take a little bit of a risk here. Don't worry, everyone else is today. I'd look at Clay. I'd look at Booker as much as I hate it because the matchup with the Knicks for a shooting guard is just prime. So if he could break out of this mid-20 fantasy point slump, it would be on a day like today. And paying 35 would be like, yes, I got 6x out of a shooting guard. Fournier might get a bump in usage, but when you're playing Atlanta, I don't know if the bump would be enough. I mean, it's very tough to find a good shooting guard today. I'm telling you guys, really tough. So I cheap out if you need to. I went down to Courtney Lee. I see some minutes. I see them playing Phoenix. I know Phoenix is a horrible opponent to run against, you know. Phoenix is still bad defensively. Phoenix still runs very fast. Some teams never die. So I'll take Courtney Lee and just cheap out of the position and run. Galloway's out of contention. Moore's out of contention. I don't see a lot of... Guys, however you decide to escape the position today, more power to you. Because it just truly sucks. J.R. Smith is horrible with his minute run. He's probably the guy that gets the most minutes at the cheap there, but, you know, still does nothing with them. Morrow. I like Morrow today with Depot out. Only 3,500. If the guy gets 27 minutes of run today or something like that, 28. If he gets starter-type run, then we're going to see Morrow probably pay a decent 20 fantasy points in value. You might think of that as fantasy glue, but on a very tight, small slate, I kind of think that's a smart way to run today. So I've got Morrow in at your shooting guard. And I don't mind cheaping out today, like I've said. I just don't like the position. So, moving on to small forward. And if there's a position I hate worse today, it's small forward. All you have is Durant at the top. There's likely blowout risk that you have to deal with. But when you look at Durant's game logs, I mean, he's had shitty opponents all the way through for fantasy-wise. He's played Memphis. He's played Utah. They're just horrible opponents, basically, when you look back in the log. And you can see that. And you're like, well, if he's going to pump back up and give you 50 points today, that's a great way to spend up in a crappy position today. I know it's only a 5x, but I'd be running it to the bank. Now, you can look at Butler on this news that Rondo's out for the increase in usage. I mean, that's going to save you 1,000 off of Durant. I'd be passing LBJ. There's just way too much blowout risk. Carmelo looks like he's in a good spot, but I'm so tired of him just... Yeah, he's got a great spot, and he just doesn't give you what you need. He's very inconsistent. So for a cash game, I can't run it. For a GPP, absolutely. Think about it today, and he's got a good matchup. There's no question. If you think the minute run is there, if you think he's going to get 38 minutes like he got in his last game, then I'd play him for sure. If you think he's only going to get 30 minutes like he has in the 2 games prior to that last game, then he's probably not a good play today. Wiggins is getting cheap enough where you can think about it. I mean, I don't like that Jimmy Butler's going to be running on his butt all day long, but I mean, let's face it, the guy's going to get 35 minutes. So if you want to pay for minutes today and pay cheap, $5,900 for Wiggins, that's not a bad choice. It's just a tough position, guys. I don't know about Harkless today. I like Mo Harkless. He's normally pretty steady, but I'm just not so sure on that pick today. 22. Tucker had a great game before, but I don't know if that's in the cards again. You have to cheap out somewhere. I mean, Tucker is probably an option. I like Sofosla. Can't even say that. He looks good today. He's taking all of Korver's minutes. Even with Korver coming back, he's still taking his minutes. And this looks like a pretty solid 5x today. I mean, if you're going to cheap out in small forward, then you might as well cheap out well. So cheap out is Sofosla. Bazemore coming back can impact his minutes slightly, but I don't think it's going to be a direct correlation cut in. So I wouldn't worry so much about that. And he is likely to play. But I still think Sofosla, or Favo, or whatever his name is in play. Aaron Gordon's in play. You guys saw him do well in his last game. Now, it is an Atlanta opponent, but this is playing on if Vucevic sits. If Vuce sits, it's almost like a no-brainer. You're going to want to run him. As stupid as the coaches are there, not putting him in to get an extra 8 to 10 minutes a run, he still does enough fantasy-wise with the minutes he does get, as long as that 25 is secure, and it will be if Vuce is out. Your other choice, if Seth doesn't suit your choices, Roberson. Roberson looks fine today. I mean, as long as Depot is out, there's a solid 30-plus minutes of run today. I mean, the guy just sucks in terms of offense. I mean, he cannot shoot a goddamn basket for his life. But, I mean, he's got some defense, and he'll give you 20 fantasy points probably in the end if he serves 35 minutes today. So Robertson, Gordon, and Thavo, I like them all at small forward today, and those are good ways to cheap out of the position and just move on. If you want to be a bit contrarian and go even slightly cheaper, you can look at Iggy, and you can try to play that Green might be the main beneficiary. I'm not so sure that he is. If you guys looked at his game log last time, and you have to remember you're playing Atlanta this time, so 22 points. Yeah, that's about 6x on the, but now you're playing Atlanta, and your minute run didn't change all that much. 22, 24, 25. So I don't really see him as a primary beneficiary. I think this is more you're taking 25 minutes against Atlanta, and I don't know if that's a smart way to go. I'd be going with Iggy instead. That's it for your small forward today, other than Durant. I've mentioned him. Now you're really going to have to play that it's not so heavy on a blowout in that aspect. And again, I know that gives Davis a reason to play, but this is also a salary savings. On a short slate, $2,000 won't matter. So I'll take Durant. And if you guys look at his game log too, he's played very well against New Orleans. They're not wonderful against the small forwards, so I like that. And the power forward today. Power forward is obviously dominated by Davis at the top. Do you take Davis or do you fade Davis? I almost think it's more of a question than Westbrook, because on Fanduel, it's almost a no-brainer. You need to take Westbrook. On DK, not so much. But Davis, that's a real question mark. It's almost a choice between do you take Davis or do you take Durant? Which one's going to do you better? Now, Davis has had 2 great games. Well, one great game and one okay game. And you're going to have to base it on price. His first great game, Davis was priced at like 9,000 or something, below 10, but ridiculous, and he ran like 77 fantasy points against him. It was like the 7th game of the season. Last time out, like maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, he played him. He only got 47 fantasy points for FanDuel, and at these type of prices, that's a 4x. That's not the way you're going to want to spend up, and especially when you start thinking there's blowout risk. That's why I'm fading off him for cash. But for a GPP, there is no way you can't say, hey, he scored 77 against him once already this season, and he's got upside for miles. So for a GPP, you might want to be thinking, I'll take Westbrook and Davis instead of a Westbrook and Durant. For cash, I'm thinking Westbrook and Durant, though. It's your safe, smart option. You can spend down. Not at Millsap, not at Love against Memphis. Draymond Green is an interesting pivot. I don't think people are going to be on him today. They would rather take Porzingis, because I have Porzingis in there. Now Porzingis, you guys obviously remember, he put up like 58 fantasy points. He ain't doing that again. Like I always talk about in these videos, that was a ceiling performance. He's not going to do a ceiling again. And if you just look at his game log, you'll see why it was a ceiling performance. Guy had like 6 blocks or 7 blocks or something and a couple steals. So 15, a ton of those fantasy points that he got came from blocks and steals. Factor those out, which he might get 1 a game usually, and you're down to a 45-point performance. Now, I'm not saying he can't ceiling again, and he's against Phoenix, who was the worst against the power forward position. So I'm not saying he can't do great again, and I think it's a great way to spend at the position today, but don't expect him to do 58 again. That's not happening. Dropping down, well, I would go straight to Ibaka and just kind of spend up a touch at the position. You have the ability to do that today. I'll go through the little bit of choices cheaper here, but I'd go straight to Ibaka. There's no problem there. If Vucevic's out, he's going to see a huge run and bump in minutes and fantasy production. I don't see him not going up to 40 today without it, even against Atlanta. So, Zebo not against Cleveland. Not against Cleveland. Dieng. Dieng is so cheap now, he could do well, but he's just been so crappy lately, I'd still pass until we see a good ceiling performance from him. I'm passing Taj. Enes Kanter is intriguing. Good GPP play. And I don't really see all that. I mean, I'd be passing Dudley. Cheap and McAdoo, no. Maybe Looney might get 15 points today if you have to go with the bare minimum, but I wouldn't go to the bare minimum. I just wouldn't. I mentioned Porzingis, and let's go on to the center position for today. All right, Glowry got the gas can out. That'll change some stuff in Memphis, but it's a horrible matchup, so not all that much for me. Towns looks great today. If you can find a way to pay up for Towns, I have no problem with you spending up on Towns today. Awesome option. Chicago is not the worst against the center position, but they're going to allow him to pick up some boards and some... I would say it's like a middle-of-the-road thing. The thing is, if Towns figures out a way to get to them, get their goat somehow, Maybe, I'm not sure. I can't really think of it at the moment, but there will be a way where, and that's why he had that 75-point game before. He somehow needles under his opponent sometimes, and then he just rails them to the wall. Normally it's on 3-point shooting. So on DraftKings, he's probably an even better choice today. But on Fanduel, he's your first spend up at center. If you're going to go down some, you have to watch the Voos news today. Everything is going to hinge or turn on that Voos news. You should know before lineup blocks. Be watching that carefully, guys. Also watch the Rondo news. Steven Adams is a good place to spend up today. I like that position a lot. I wouldn't be looking at Plumlee. I'd be passing Tyson Chandler. Rowe looks okay for a solid 25, no more, no less. Thompson will be passing. Biombo looks incredible with Voos out, so I'm playing that news is going to go on, and that's the lineup for now. O'Gwynn is probably going to play. I don't think it changes anything other than hurting both him and Noah. And Hernan Gomez, but he's completely out at this point. And that's about it for the center position. I probably wouldn't go any cheaper than Biombo today. Okay, so that's it for Fantasy Forecast for Tuesday, December 13th, 2016. Let's go ahead and do your 2-minute roundup right now and move into today's cash game lineup. Now this will be updated if I get the news and Vucevic happens to be playing or Rondo happens to be playing. You'll want to follow me on Twitter for that last minute news if it comes like less than half an hour before lock. I don't have time to do YouTube videos in that case. My Twitter link is in the description below. Go ahead and click there. So go ahead and do that if you need a last minute update. If you can do it on your own, awesome blossom, that's great. Just subscribe to this channel for free, lineups and daily analysis. Subscriptions keep this channel going, guys. Please subscribe. Today's cash game lineup. Westbrook and Rose at their point guard position. Courtney Lee and Anthony Morrow at your shooting guard positions. Gordon and Durant for your small forward. Ibaka and Porzingis at your power forward. And Biombo for your center today, guys. All right. Thank you again so much for watching Fantasy Forecast for today. Reminder, I will be posting a cash game lineup update if there is one available on YouTube if it's more than half an hour before, on Twitter if it's less than half an hour before. And that's about it, guys. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And thank you guys so much for watching today. Go on out there and go win some big money.